I want to talk a bit about Dr. King and his legacy and what it means today. Today, we are gathered here together, and it's really not to mourn the death of someone. It really is to celebrate a life that was well lived. Dr. King, in his brief 38 years, demonstrated to us that a short life, committed to justice, committed to love, committed to compassion and brotherhood, can create a world of change, can transform governments, can, through nonviolence, transform evil to good, and have a lasting impact on future generations. It's clear that all his life was purpose-driven, a life that took him away from his family for days, weeks, and months at a time, a life devoid of creature comforts, spending many nights in cheap hotels and some nights in prisons in an attempt to really silence his drumbeat. Yes, he was a drum major for justice, for peace, and for righteousness. So, as we celebrate today, let's remember Dr. King for not only what he accomplished in his short lifetime, but also for all that he has inspired us to do through his legacy of faith, hope, and love. So, what do we do? How are we, each of us, carrying out his legacy? What difference are we making to bring about peace and justice in this world? For example, what are you, each of you, doing about the situation in Haiti today? As destruction, devastation, and death rain down on a helpless nation and people, what are you doing about it? To empathize, to feel sad, to even pray is not enough. What are you doing? Action matters, makes the difference, brings about change. Dr. King said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Think about that. And he also said, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Do not live your life in silence. Pick up the mantle. Reach out in every way possible to make a difference. Often, we find ourselves, and I do too, caught up in the stresses of daily life, engaged with our families, engrossed in our jobs, thinking about the next vacation or trip we'll take, worrying about how we will fare in our lives from day to day, month to month, year to year. There's much more expected of us than just surviving or pursuing the comforts of life. Our lives are not simply about ourselves. It's about our human connectedness, something Dr. King understood. Our responsibility to those that God has asked us to shepherd. Our responsibility to justice and peace. Dr. King in 1963 said about justice, as Dr. White has so eloquently said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We cannot enjoy peace. We cannot rest until justice prevails throughout this land of ours, and every man, woman, and child are treated with dignity and respect, until race, creed, ethnicity, age, sexual identity, and every other ism matters no more. This is the legacy that he left us. This is what Dr. King was all about. This is what's expected of us. The world has changed much since Martin Luther King Jr. left this earth in 1968. If he returned today, he would marvel at the growth and change in our world, the economic development, technological advances, progress and advancements that were unimaginable in 1968. However, he would also see another side of the world. And I'm going to repeat some of what Dr. White said, and we're thinking on the same line today because the data and the statistics that he gave you were things that I have been thinking about. And he's correct. The world where over 3 billion people, half of the world, if we represented the world, half of you here would be living in poverty. A world that has 2.2 billion children. 2.2 billion children. 1 billion of those children live in poverty. It's a world where 1 billion people entered the 21st century and they couldn't read a book or sign their own name. They were illiterate. I wonder how he would have reacted about learning that 10.6 million children die annually before they reach the age of 5 years. And that's as a result of poor nutrition and lack of proper health care. This is equal to the number of children right now in France, Germany, Greece, and Italy combined. Tomorrow, if all the children in those 4 countries died tomorrow, it would be a world catastrophe of epic proportions. However, since the children that die, for the most part, are in third world countries, they go mostly unnoticed, forgotten. We live in a world where the wealthiest 20% account for 77% of consumption. Think about that. The wealthiest, 1 in 5 of you, would control 77% of what's consumed. Where the poorest 20%, which account for 1.5% of consumption. The world's billionaires, 497 people. We could fit them in this room today. 497 people. They control over 7% of the world GDP, while low-income countries, representing more than 2.4 billion people, account for 3.3% of GDP. So 497 people have more wealth than 2.4 billion people. And finally, I wonder what he would think of the richest nation in the world having the widest and a growing gap between the rich and the poor. Yes, I think Dr. King would have much to say about the world today, both good and not so good. I also know that he would call us to service. He would ask us to join him in the struggle for justice and peace. He would ask us to feed, clothe, and educate the children of the world. He would plead with us to provide hope and opportunity for all the world's people. So as we celebrate this great American, as we remember his good works and all he stood for in his lifetime, let us lift the world to new levels of justice and peace. Let us love beyond our own. Let us lead the world from its own darkness of despair and hopelessness into a light of love, peace, justice, and hope. Thank you.